This week in games, layoffs hit the industry once again, Devil May Cry director retires, and PlayStation 5 Pro leaks have happened. This is the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 215. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Don't answer that.
Wow. Okay.
I can't hear them, so there's no point in it. You just
Drop a comment down below.
Yeah, do that and let us know how your day is.
Right. I might respond to it, you know. Connor here, not a chance.
I should get on that more.
Hit him up on Twitter, you know.
Oh, and I'll respond to that.
Yeah. No, you won't.
Excuse you, sir. Excuse you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Two Penny Gamescast. Each week, me and Connor come to you with the new news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, two pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. Connor, how's your week been, friend?
What happened this past week? It was good.
Got your car back.
Yeah, I spent a lot of money. It was
a lot of money on some car, but it's back.
It's back, yeah. It's
back.
Working with AC.
Yeah.
In Texas weather, so that's something to be proud of.
It's something to be happy about,
Yeah.
you know, for sure.
But no one likes spending money on cars because it's always a lot,
Always a lot.
and it was a lot.
Yeah.
So, other than that, it was a good week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about you? Huh?
It was all right, yeah. It was just busy all the time, you know. But had a decent work week, you know. Started slow, but picked up decently at the end and so forth. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of chilling, doing school, doing work, doing this, you know. Schedule packed to the brim at all times. Working on Star Wars Outlaws. There will be a review for that next week. This week, there is a review live on the channel by the time you're hearing this on youtube.com/@TwoPennyGames for Black Myth Wukong. That was heralded by Phil Shoemaker, our fellow co-host, who will be on this episode a little later on. And you were on that review as well. It was a good time. So make sure, ladies and gentlemen, you jump over to the YouTube page and go and check out that review. At the end of this video, however, there will be an hour-long review and discussion of Banjo Kazooie. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the Two Penny Game Club is back. That's our monthly video game book club in which we play a game in the background, come to you at the beginning of each new month, review it, and rank it amongst the other games in the series. It's back, and we're going to bring Phil in on that here in just a little while to talk about some Banjo Kazooie. Very excited to do that today. But of course, this is the Two Penny Gamescast. You can get this show every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@TwoPennyGames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, and follow us on mainstream podcast services such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. And make sure to drop a 5-star review if you could. Rate us on all of those platforms. That helps us get us out there to the people so that more people can enjoy this show. I know you're out there. I know you're listening. I see the numbers. You're there. There's not many of you. You're part of a select few, an intelligent few, you know, those who know that the cream of the crop is rising.
Sure, yeah.
It's on its way up, you know?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Anyways, and then make sure, of course, you drop comments down below for any discussion you would like us to handle in next week's episode. Of course, we would like to incorporate a 2 pennies from the audience. So any evergreen topics, any discussions that maybe we didn't have time to get to, or maybe something you'd like us to expound upon, drop it in the comments down below. I'll read them and bring them forward for you next week. That'll be a great time for that. Connor.
That was a heavy news week, huh?
It is a heavy news week. A lot happened this week in a lot of different ways. So there is a lot to talk about. Did I mention everything? There's a Concord review, a TikTok short, and a YouTube short, and a TikTok live on that. Make sure to follow us on TikTok, follow us on Twitters, follow us on social medias. Description links are in the description down below. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Star Wars Outlaws review next week. I already covered that. We'll get to that. So, Connor, let's jump into our first topic of the day. This is, of course, my first penny of the day, and it's unfortunately a bit of a heavy one. Do you want to take your time code?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. First topic, Bloom. This is This is from Gamatsu by Sal Romano. Bloomberg reporting NetEase Games plans to close Visions of Mana developer Ouka Studios. Ouka? Ouka?
Okay. I
Oka?
think, yeah.
All right.
I believe so.
NetEase Games has cut, quote, all but a handful of jobs at Tokyo-based subsidiary Oka Studios, which just shipped Visions of Mana under contract for Square Enix, and plans to close the studio. According to a Bloomberg report citing people familiar with the matter, the few staff that remain at the studio will reportedly oversee the rollout of its final games. Back in 2022, 2 years after its establishment in 2020, Oka Studios outlined 3 projects that were currently in development: an action RPG featuring an adventure with unique allies, a new style battle game based on a popular series, and an original cooperative action game featuring gigantic enemies. In an email, a NetEase Games representative told Bloomberg it has, quote, nothing to announce regarding a potential closure of Oka Studios, and that it is seeing progress at the many Japanese studios it is invested in. Quote, in supporting studios outside China, we craft our strategy based on our goal of providing better gaming experiences to local and global players. The NetEase Games spokesperson said the company is, quote, thus always making necessary adjustments to reflect market conditions. NetEase Games also owns the Toshihiro Nagoshi-led Nagoshi Studio, the Goichi, Suda51, Suda-led Grasshopper manufacturer, and Hiroyuki Kobayashi-led GP Track 50. According to Bloomberg, NetEase Games rival Tencent is also reconsidering the pace and scale of its investment in Japan, having already backed off from at least several funding commitments for new titles. In a statement, Tencent told Bloomberg that it remains committed to its partner studios and developing its business in Japan. Literally, the day Visions of Mana dropped, everybody gets fired.
And it does say that they were getting phased out since spring, but it's incredibly pathetic to have a game on the horizon and start doing that before you see how well it does.
It's weird to see. So it's clear that, like, all right, writing was on the wall here for quite a while, but then, like, so who's getting these profits that are coming off this game? I mean, I don't imagine it's going to be Visions of Mana, not necessarily the biggest game of the year by any means, and by critic response, not the best game of the year either. But like, man, we're not even going to see how this is going before we're shutting it down. Now, granted, it was probably internal talk at the studio of like, hey, this is it for us. Go, pack up your stuff. Like, we're gonna ship it, and then we're gonna have to figure something else out, which is sad. But it just sucks that we just live in a time where, like, these studios don't get opportunity to grow. They don't get opportunity to learn. They they come out, they're established, they maybe get to put out a game, and then they pack it up. You don't have an opportunity like an Insomniac to learn from Spyro 1, 2, 3. Into the Ratchet and Clanks and so on and so forth. Like, it just doesn't happen anymore. Same with Naughty Dog. Same with any studio of that time, And a lot of the Square Enix held studios, I know this isn't a Square Enix owned studio, but in partnership with Square Enix, right? Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of these studios got to, take risks and make mistakes. And you just don't see that anymore. And it's really unfortunate, because that's how we get games and franchises that we care about. Is, oh, hey, first one was okay, this one was all right, but the next one is where they really hit the stride. That doesn't happen anymore. You're either a hit on the first time, or you're out of here. And that's, man, I feel so bad for these people who have to live under this iron,
It's incredibly demoralizing. One thing we keep going back to is Tango Gameworks. They put out a commercially successful game, a well-received game. Everyone was
granted, Tango been around for a minute.
They had been, but the point is that the product that you're releasing does not matter. It's been, I think, very clear that that's the case. Even if, layoffs would have happened if the game didn't sell all that well, Visions of Mana, or if there were layoffs, closures, whatnot, the fact that we're seeing it happen before the game's even out shows that how good it is probably doesn't really all that much matter.
Yeah.
It's just a reaction to cut costs from these head companies. And I find it incredibly hard for game designers to look forward to the future happily. Some people have said it seems certainly that we're heading towards a crash, and that this current economy of gaming is unsustainable, and these are one of those factors that just kind of add on to those dark thoughts about what exactly is going to happen to the gaming industry.
And I mean, it's not even new guys. Like, we're talking about Oka Studios, established in 2020. Obviously, the game that they were talking about is Visions of Mana, but they had a co-op game in production too. We're not getting that now. Like, it's just dead in the water, and that's unfortunate. But like, even titans of the industry, who at one point were at the top of their game, get pushed into creative decisions that are not necessarily so much focused on the art or so much focused on the product of the game, and more focused on generating revenue. And that you can see that as a consumer from a mile away, is when it's like, oh, this is just to make money, and this is not going to be that great. And the perfect example of that is Rocksteady with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which also got hit with layoffs. This just happened today, right before we went live. Pulling from Eurogamer.net, Tom Phillips, Rocksteady hit by layoffs after Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League underperforms. Rocksteady staff have told Eurogamer on redundancies at the studio following the underperformance of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The company's QA department has seen its size almost cut in half over the past month. Eurogamer understands from 33 team members to 15, with poor sales of Suicide Squad directly cited as a reason for its restructuring. The job losses extend outside of QA too. One staff member posting publicly on social media over the weekend revealed they had been told they were being made redundant in the middle of their paternity leave. Eurogamer has contacted Suicide Squad publisher Warner Brothers for comment, but has so far not received a response. Rocksteady staff who requested to remain anonymous told Eurogamer that the loss of so many roles in the developer's QA department, including team members with specialized knowledge, would leave their remaining colleagues shouldered with more work. There has also been an acknowledgement by Rocksteady's senior management that product quality will now suffer as a result, staff say. Staff members affected by the job cuts include numerous junior staff, but also several team members employed at Rocksteady for more than 5 years. Last month, Warner Brothers reported a 41% fall in gaming revenue year on year due to the weak performance of Suicide Squad. After previously saying that it had lost $200 million on the game, work continues on Suicide Squad's year of post-launch content, though nothing has been said for what, if anything, will come next. Quote, Rocksteady's talent is so evident in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, it almost overcomes the terrible decision to try and make it reads Eurogamer's Suicide Squad review. Excuse for the little editorialization there, but, it is what it is. And, I think that speaks true. Rocksteady, incredibly talented studio. The Batman Arkham games are monumental landmarks in gaming that just really, paved the way for what a narrative action type game should kind of look like, at least in the comic book genre, when you bring comic book heroes to games and so forth. And Suicide Squad, hard miss. And this is what happens a lot of the time when you make a studio make a game that they are not experts in making. That's not why they applied. That's not what they specialized. That's not what they made before or after. And so, Warner Brothers kind of pushing Rocksteady into this live service, game as a service model didn't work. It flopped really hard. The game is not great from all tales. Neither of us played it, and it turns out, nobody fucking played it. I was seeing numbers that Suicide Squad was doing worse than Avengers today, like this year. I'm not talking when Avengers launched. I'm talking earlier this year when Suicide Squad launched. It had lower numbers than Avengers did earlier this year.
And we have other case examples like with the closure of Oka Games, comparing it to Tango Gameworks, of big studios that have storied experience in the gaming industry. Crystal Dynamics with the Avengers.
Another one.
Arcane Studios with Redfall.
Yep.
Now Rocksteady with Suicide Squad.
Rest in peace, Arcane.
Yeah. And what's the underlying thing here? They're all live service games, which is already to Concord, is already a hard market to get into. And even if you have the sauce, which Concord didn't, in terms of how it looks, you're still not exactly bringing people in. And these are all case examples of that, and yet we saw it happen multiple times. It belies common sense. And I'm assuming that a little bit down the line here, we're going to, since this just broke, we're going to have some executive or some PR statement from this company saying something It doesn't really matter what it is because it's all empty words anyway. The fact that they cause a game to fail and then go on to blame the people who basically had no choice in the matter and canceling their fucking employment during paternity leave.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
I mean, that really can tell you all that you need to know about who exactly is making these decisions. A bunch of repugnant maggots who just don't care about people's lives, who don't care about video games as an art form. They're just the lowest of the low that wear a suit. And so people think they're not. But they're, trust me, lower than most people will ever be, ever hope to be. And, how much money do they make? How much are they screwing over their workers on an individual basis? Because it's, generally when someone gets unemployed or laid off, something like this, it sucks. There's the curve of you having to get a new job. But, I think those kind of ignore those small cases where someone's life is completely upended by one of these studios closing. And it happens, You can't fire these large swaths of people. You can't cancel these entire studios and not have somebody end up screwed over massively as a result. And they just don't care.
I mean, that's the long and short of it, is that greed has run amok. You bring up, Concord in that even studios that are built to make these games, and they turn out, in our opinion, a quality game, but clearly, not one that's capturing the hearts of the people. Concord is estimated to have only sold 25,000 units. So now you look to Firewalk, and you go, what happens there? Sony had long-term plans for this. Are they going to commit? Are they going to double down? We've seen different industry figureheads come out and say, "Hey, man, you're not committing. You guys are expecting massive profits right out of the gate, and it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you have to, give your team time to find it and time to build a community out. And I personally think that's what PlayStation should do with Concord right now. But then there are clear options of Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Yeah, that one's not one that we should continue down that path. And I'm gonna guess the reason they attacked QA in terms of layoffs is so that they can keep as much of that core development team as possible. Of course, this is gonna burden everybody with more work because there's just less hands to go around. But I think the hope is that they can turn this around. And so maybe we can give Rocksteady another chance, another game, and hopefully we don't have to see them face the same closures that we are seeing industry-wide. And, I assume you pull that all the way back, you put them on another single-player action-adventure game of some kind, whether that's another comic book game, another Batman game, something. I kind of feel like returning to the Arkham universe would be a mistake because that is so deeply rooted in Kevin Conroy's performance as Batman. So, returning to that would probably be a mistake, but I'm not saying they should avoid Batman as an entirety.
And you think those people care who make the decisions?
No, a Batman game is going to sell, but what would strategically, if you're from a leadership perspective, what would you do with this studio? Because to me, I would not send them back down the road of Batman, especially because Suicide Squad kind of left a bad taste in some people's mouths with how Batman was handled. And then one of their more recent events or whatever is a thing where they're resurrecting the Justice League or whatever. So, the whole point of the game, I think that's a soured branch. That's a poisonous branch to jump on. So I think it'd be smarter if they found a way to develop, I don't know, a Nightwing game or a Superman game or give them something else to work with. Because I think returning to Batman again, it's going to be, it's going to be hard to separate that from Arkham. It's already a tumultuous ground. Kevin Conroy's gone. Rest in peace. So, I don't know. I'm hypothesizing on what the angle is for Rocksteady as a studio, but Warner Brothers as a publisher. And as an owner of that studio, what is the angle they should go down? I don't know, but it's definitely not more Suicide Squad.
And it's not going to be, you're right.
But, ladies and gentlemen, we are not quite done with all of the heavy stuff. We got one more not so great story today. Moving on to our second topic of the day. Connor, this is going to be your first penny of the day. Go ahead and take it away, my friend.
Well, we have an IGN article here from Ryan Dinsdale. Union staff at Call of Duty developer Raven Software file bad faith bargaining complaint against Activision and Microsoft. Employees at Call of Duty studio Raven Software, who formed the first Activision Blizzard union in 2022, have filed a complaint against the developer, Activision, and new parent company, Microsoft. According to GameFile, the workers filed a complaint with the U.S. National Labor Relations Board under categories including refusal to bargain, bad faith bargaining, changes in terms and conditions of employment, and concerted activities, retaliation, discharge, discipline. Quote, after Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, our members were optimistic that they would progress quickly to a first contract at Raven Software. Communication Workers of America, CWA, President Claude Cummings Jr. said, unfortunately, that has not happened. We encourage Microsoft to address the concerns raised in the unfair labor practice charge and make reaching a fair agreement a priority. The CWA declined to comment on specifics of the allegations when contacted by GameFile, but a Microsoft spokesperson said, quote, we are committed to negotiating in good faith, end quote. That soothed my fears. The CWA, under which the Raven Software employees formed their union, initially expressed support of Microsoft's $68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Quote, it is a new day for workers at Activision Blizzard, end quote, it said when the acquisition went through. Things have seemingly turned sour, however, though it could be a while before the National Labor Relations Board makes its verdict. So, a little bit sparse on the exact details of what bad faith argument is in this case, though you can kind of assume what it is. Processes to gum up the works of trying to facilitate the formation of a union. It's pretty, common knowledge to anybody that pays attention to this stuff that employers do not like unions. There's claims that it makes it harder to get your work done, how, it takes away power from the business owner, who some people believe should be the overwhelming authority in a company. All of those things aside, what it comes down to is that it requires them to negotiate with things rather than just make dictates. And so, naturally, somebody who wants to have a large control over their company doesn't want that, which is why you see a lot of resistance of unions by these game companies, which, like with the stories we just covered, they want to be able to close studios whenever they want. They want to be able to lay off a bunch of people to make up for whatever losses they have when they make a live service game. They just find that a lot easier than having to negotiate in good faith. If they truly are, that is, screwing things over. It's just not too unfeasible to say that they are. Because the bigger of a company you get, especially one that, even if it did have some changes, did have basically a rape culture going around, to say it harshly, but, I'm not going to be nice to them. Not exactly a good taste to leave in your mouth. And then when you hear stories like this, you can't exactly, give the shock face of, oh, they're trying to stop a union from happening? I didn't think they would do that. I'm interested to see what exact case is being made. It may be a little bit before we find that out, but at this point, I think it's kind of, especially because we cover this all the time, it's kind of foolish to not automatically side with the workers, because every other instance we have of something like this going on, it's not them that are gumming up the works or causing problems for a studio or a company. It's the heads of that company.
Yeah, I'm right there along with you. This file, of course, is going up the chain all the way to Microsoft. I don't really see this as a Microsoft issue. I think this is a problem of too many parent companies, too many people who hold other people. Raven is owned by Activision, which is owned by Microsoft, but Raven is dealing pretty directly with Activision themselves. Activision is still Activision. There have been some moving arounds. Obviously, we got Bobby Kotick over here, which is out of here, which is a win. But I don't think Microsoft is being hands-on enough here. I think that's where they're failing is they are not helping to direct the flow of these negotiations as well as they probably could or should. And so now we're in this tricky situation where communication is not going well. I don't know enough details to be able to distinguish on what front. I'm going to go ahead and guess and assume it's on the Activision front since they were the problems to begin with. And so, yeah, this is disappointing to hear. This is really upsetting to hear, especially after that acquisition, which, you and I covered extensively over, the year and a half, 2 years that it was going on. The hope was Microsoft would grab Activision Blizzard and all of its subsidiaries and things would improve. And it doesn't look like that's happening, which is unfortunate. Now, granted, it hasn't been that long, so it's not that I'm willing to cut them slack. It's just that I'm willing to give them time. It's a big ship, and it takes time to turn these things around, especially when you're that big. So I'm willing to give them a little bit more time to figure it out and fix it. This should be a warning flag, another red flag, of like, hey, there's fire over here. Microsoft can put this out. But it just kind of feels like Microsoft is running around putting out fires a lot.
Or they just don't care. It's not really on their list of priorities.
That's also a possibility. And again, I don't think that necessarily falls to the Xbox team, your Phil Spencers and Sarah Bonds, though they should definitely be directing more oversight on it. But I think it's Microsoft as a whole, which kind of isn't creating problems, but just isn't finding solutions. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, this is disappointing. This is upsetting to hear. I don't like that this is what's happening right here. I'm with you with a lot of what you were saying about how, hey man, there's a lot of people working under this umbrella, and we should make sure that these people are safe because they're the ones who get the work done. Mm-hmm. You brought up a point of like the opposition to unions is that it doesn't give bosses enough control, right? It takes the power away from directors, CEOs, heads of corporations, and so forth. I think that argument makes sense if the leaders are willing to get their hands dirty and do the work. When this thing pops off and I can start paying an editor, do you think I'm going to keep making TikToks all the time? No, I'm not. I'm going to be working on other projects. That's the plan, right? And have someone else hire somebody else to do the editing of the TikToks and such. But does that mean I'm never going to edit a TikTok again, or I'm not willing to ever edit a TikTok again? No, I'm willing to get my hands dirty for that type of shit. And so these guys who are in charge and just a figurehead who inherited a company either through just buying it out or was given it through other means, they need to be willing to get their hands dirty, and I don't believe that they are. And so, not only that they're not willing to get their hands dirty, they're not capable of getting it. These are skills and talents they don't have. So you're leeching off of these people with true talent and true work ethic and sitting comfortably in your millions of dollars or whatever while they do all the hard work. They have to, suffer the crunch because you laid off half the other team, and because a game failed to deliver, and the game failed to deliver. Why? Because you pushed that team to create something. It's just this vicious cycle of just never-ending product failure because you aren't listening to the worker. The worker is the one who knows what they're doing. They know what the fan base wants, for the most part, and they know how to deliver upon that. Now, does that work 100% of the time? No. You're dealing with artists and creatives always want to do something new, and they always want to make something new.
And you have to have the balancing of those people who think from the financial perspective, because otherwise you won't make money.
Absolutely, right? But the problem is that we don't have a balance right now. No. It's too much leaning the corpo way and not enough leading the artist way, which I guess if I was paying attention 20 years ago, but like if you had told me 20 years ago that this is what was going on, I was 6. But, if I was who I am today 20 years ago and looking at it, the boom of gaming that took place, mostly because of the mobile phone market, right? But the boom of gaming that elevated it to the level that it is today, you could have expected that, some corporation overreaching was going to happen. So I guess we're kind of in the most predictable outcome of just and this is just the evolution of the medium in the business, right? We've hit a point to where we are, and now we need to find a way to scale back. Happened in Hollywood too, to a much lesser extent. Things are just big now, so it's all kind of scary and so forth. So, again, where this concerns players is I'm going to take the same stance I have always taken. Support studios, reach out. Shout, like make noise, make a bunch of things. But if a studio is providing a service that you like, support them. And you have to do that monetarily, and you have to be able to click on things and show them support that way. But still have outcry, online, social media, forums. What's the thing you sign?
Contract?
No.
Favor?
No, more of like an internet thing. Where they're like, hey, we need 1,000 signatures to petitions, things like that. Is it as effective as we would like it to be? No, but it is effective. We have seen corporations and studios, companies back down because of public pressure on that. But if you just pull your monetary support all the way, it doesn't make the work-life situation better for the workers. It closes the studio. So it's a tricky balance that we as consumers and players need to also be aware of. And we can't just say, oh, I'm just not giving you money. Because, all right, well, that's how you lose Rocksteadies, you know?
They didn't do anything wrong.
And they didn't do anything wrong. They were told to make a game and they made it as best as they could. Anyways, Connor, moving on to our third topic of the day. Let's get out of here with something that we can be a little more happy about, right?
Yeah, I think we can be happy about this.
Yeah, so moving on to your second penny of the day. This is something that is definitely titillating the imagination. So here, go ahead, take it away, my friend.
Indeed it does. This is from Games Radar. Con Saren. Devil May Cry and Dragon's Dogma director Hideaki Itsuno is leaving Capcom after 30 years to make a, quote, new game in a new environment, end quote. Hideaki Itsuno has been pumping out beloved games at publisher Capcom for over 3 decades, from multiple Devil May Crys to both Dragon's Dogmas. But he's now leaving the company to make new games in a new environment. The longtime DMC director revealed his departure in a tweet from earlier today. Quote, at the end of August 2024, I will be leaving Capcom after 30 years and 5 months. Itsuno writes, thank you for the long-term support of the games and characters I have been responsible for. I hope you will continue to...
May as well just added on the days to that. It's hey, yo, how many minutes have you been working at Capcom, brother?
I've been working, guys. I hope you will continue to support Capcom's games and characters. Quote, from September, I will start developing a new game in a new environment, he continues. I hope to create fun, beautiful games that are as memorable as, or even more memorable than the ones I have created so far. There's currently no word on what type of game Itsuno is working on next, what this, quote, new environment could be, or why he's leaving Capcom. But whatever the famed director makes next deserves to be paid attention. So, I'll read this next part. After working on some oft-forgotten fighting games in the late 1990s, who remembers Power Stone? I do. Itsuno.
And that Capcom thing that they're putting out.
I played it. Fun.
Okay.
Fun little game for non-fighting game players to also enjoy. Itsuno took over the directing reins of the most contentious game in the stylish slasher series, Devil May Cry 2, which was struggling with a turbulent development cycle at the time. Clearly, he turned that around.
Yeah.
And
is there a Devil May Cry 4?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a weird one.
Is it called 4?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's strange because it's an incomplete game.
Oh.
Yeah, definitely.
DMC's got a turbulent development.
It definitely does, but the thing about that one, why it's interesting, Devil May Cry 2 sucks ass. 4 is really, really good. It's actually kind of like amazing how good it is with the fact that it was, such a rocky development. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to Itsuno, and I don't think there's anything like contentious that occurred between any of them. Dragon's Dogma 2 just came out, so it makes sense that he probably just wanted to get that one out the gate as his last project for Capcom and then move on to something else that he may have had planned beforehand. I'm assuming he's not going to go the route of Kojima and make his own studio. He'll probably
I
hop
don't think
on
so either.
What?
I don't think so either.
No. He could go work for Hideo. Probably not, though. Point is, though, he's off to new and better things. Hopefully better things. It kind of signals the death of Devil May Cry, I think. At least as we've known it up until this point. Obviously the Dante, saga, really the fucking the Sparta saga. That's what it is. They said that's ended. So it makes sense that there's no more of that, and now Dragon Dogma 2 is out. They'll probably go on, doing what Capcom's always done best, which is make great games. But I'll definitely be paying attention to what Itsuno is doing next, because it'll probably be a cool-ass action game, and, I'm always down for those, especially one made by someone of his caliber. I hope Capcom doesn't suffer from this. They probably won't.
No, I don't think Capcom will suffer from this because, quite frankly, Dragon's Dogma 2 was a huge success this year and a really big game, but quite frankly, it's not, no offense, these franchises are not necessarily Capcom's bread and butter right now. You'd be looking at your Resident Evils, your Monster Hunters, and your Street Fighter. For that type of scenario, I think probably in that order too.
Yeah, probably.
Listen, salute, shout out. I love when artists find a good way to exit, and leave studios off on a good note. Dragon's Dogma 2 heralded as a pretty good success this year. Critically didn't like blow us out of the water, but did did well,
Yeah.
right? And definitely sold well, and it was very hyped at the beginning of this year. So I think you could count that as a major success. I think the studio is in a good position to really find a new identity. If we do choose to go the route of a Devil May Cry again, I think narratively and mechanically, and just where the studio is at today, and how long it's been since Devil May Cry 5, and how long until we probably will get another one, assuming they haven't started development on one already. It just makes sense to, hey, let's pass these reins on. It sounds like this is something that's been known for a while behind the scenes. It sounds like he's already got a new job lined up and ready to go. He's not full on retiring or anything like that. So now the question is, where? And you know what, Connor? There's this little studio that has recently lost its main director and is looking for a new identity in a character action gameplay series known as Tango Gameworks.
Mm-hmm.
Getting revived from Crafton as a publisher. Tango Gameworks still in Japan now. Granted, homie might be trying to really take that new environment type thing seriously, but there's a lot of stakes in the Capcom world, right?
Yeah,
like those games needed to be successful. And granted, whatever Tango does next needs to kind of be successful, but the stakes are a little lower, right? And the opportunity, they're getting most of their staff back, but not all of them. So we can kind of reform our team and reshape our identity here.
I can't remember his name, but the creator of Hi-Fi Rush left shortly after the game came out.
Was that of Hi-Fi Rush, or was that a different?
It was definitely Hi-Fi Rush. It might not have been the director, but It was definitely one of the main people. Who
I know they're main director left after
Ghostwire Tokyo.
That one.
Yeah.
Which, it's probably time to leave after that one, no offense. But that's another game that seemed to have some publisher interference or something. Or maybe they just couldn't get it going.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens too. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just get
dealt a shit hand.
Ghostwire Tokyo was a game I would classify as good mid. Sometimes you get good mid. Mm-hmm. Ghostwire's kind of that good mid. It's an alright game. It's functional, right? Same with like a Days Gone. Damn good mid. What's another example of something like that? Rise of the Ronin, Stellar Blade, good ass mid. Stellar Blade's just good. Actually, I take that back. But
what's better, that or Rise of the Ronin?
Stellar Blade is better.
Yeah,
for sure, absolutely. Yeah. Rise of the Ronin is more interesting, probably from a world and creation perspective, but Stellar Blade is definitely just a better game.
Yeah,
it just plays so. Stellar Blade has some of the best combat of the year for sure. Mm-hmm. It's good combat. Anyways, so yeah, now I'm just throwing some theories out there. It would the lineage would kind of make sense. This guy knows how to make action hack and slash games. Let's put a little rhythm on it,
And they only just recently, that it being Tango Gameworks, came back.
Yeah.
Less than a month ago.
Yeah, this would make sense if Crafton reached out and said, "Hey, what are you doing over there?" "Oh, I'm looking for something new." "Well, that's interesting. We got this studio that needs a clear direction because it doesn't have one right now."
Yeah.
I don't know what the status of Tango Gameworks is right now, but that would kind of be sort of match made in heaven type stuff.
I think the status was they were just focused on making a new Hi-Fi Rush because
they're developing that series and that franchise and stuff. But to have someone with this lineage behind the reins, it's a pretty good get. Not saying it's happening. I'm throwing shit out of the ether. What could happen? I don't know. He could join some new studio that hasn't been announced as forming yet, and they're making a new thing, and we're never going to see it. Yada yada yada. But yeah, I don't know. Again, this is not a bad story. This is a cool.
Yeah. Change is good sometimes.
Sometimes change is good. And sometimes, Connor, sometimes we're not changing that much at all. Moving on to our final topic of the day, and my final penny of the day. We got an IGN article from one Wesley Yinpool. PS5 Pro leak reveals alleged name and design of the console. A new report on the PlayStation 5 Pro has revealed alleged new information about the unannounced console. In an article on D-Labs, reliable PlayStation leaker Bill Kuhn I've heard this name before. Said the final name of the mid-gen refresh is indeed PS5 Pro, and published a sketch of its design based on what is claimed to be the final packaging box of the new console. And if you need, it looks like it's funny how this worked, because it looks like, like if you look at the when they refurbished the PlayStation 5 and made it to where like you could like put the disc drive in it or whatever. It looks like that, but like it looks like Wolverine slashed down the middle as opposed to just one little break and stuff. It's cool. It's a cool little sketch. I kind of like how it looks. The sketch above shows a console design similar to the existing PS5 Slim. That's what it was called, the PS5 Slim. White in color and with two USB-C ports and a power button on the front, but there are 3 black stripes in the middle of the outer layer of the PS5 Pro that are not found on the base models. Bill Bokun noted that the PS5 Pro appears slightly thicker than the 5 Slim. The PS5 Pro, seen by Bill Bokun, does not include a disc drive. What's unclear is whether Sony plans to also release a version of the console with a disc drive. A price is not mentioned. The controller remains the base DualSense. Bill Bokun expects Sony to announce a PS5 Pro during the first half of September 2024. IGN has asked Sony for comment. All right. I mean, kind of gaming's worst kept secret right now is a PlayStation 5 Pro is coming, right? Like, we've seen it coming. We've seen the leaks. We know the whispers are happening. Devs have had dev kits for a while and so forth.
That's what they always do.
Yeah. It's a matter of like, what are we getting in terms of the upgrades? And then price points. Don't expect anything less than $600 because also this last week, the PlayStation 5 had a price increase in Japan for the equivalency of what is basically $90 American, which is a lot of money to go up. So that was kind of unfortunate to see. So expect this thing to, you should expect this bad boy to be about $600, which is not a small asking price, right?
Yeah. And honestly, I don't see the point in any of this. Like, besides established like business practice,
I don't see the point in hard. I have a similar perspective, but the other way. I don't see a point in hard console generations anymore. Mm-hmm. These things should come out like iPhones, not every year, but every couple of years we get. Well, I guess like new graphics cards or whatever, right? I think we should shorten up the console life cycle, if that makes sense, at least from release to release, and then like not have so many hard lines of when things are backwards compatible anymore. Kind of like how a PC works, where like eventually a game comes out, it's too advanced for your PC, you're going to have to upgrade.
Yeah.
Things like that. I think that's how consoles should work now. So obviously PlayStation's not going to have that because they're still dependent on life cycles of consoles, but I'm curious if that's kind of the direction they're going in. We had our experimental phase with the PlayStation 4. Obviously the PlayStation 4 Pro was a success, or else they wouldn't do it again. And so PS5 Pro coming, this is the right time for it. PlayStation 5 has been around 4 or 5 years now. So, 5 years by the time, we get the Pro. So yeah, all these things make sense. Is it like exciting? Not really. Like it kind of takes the excitement away from new consoles in that sense. But I mean, if you don't have one already, I would recommend this over getting a base model, right?
Sure.
And then also, like, it just depends on what these things are going to be able to do for us, the consumer. I've theorized, and a bunch of other people have as well. This is not an original Tavin thought, but if the PS5 Pro allows it to where we don't have to pick between performance and resolution anymore, that would be cool. I don't expect that to be the case because we live in a world where the most powerful console on the market is running Avowed at 30 frames per second, so which is an embarrassment. We didn't talk about that, but that's an embarrassment. And so, yeah, I think this is just this. We should get used to shorter console life cycles.
Well, they have some ideas for consoles, don't they?
They do indeed, Connor. And again, playing right into my point is we just live in a world where we don't have the clear separation. The borders are gone. The lines are blurred, Connor. They're blurred. Mm-hmm. And so we have a new report coming from PlayStation Lifestyle. There it is. Zarmina Khan. New PlayStation handheld hopes alive after PlayStation Portal's success. A known insider has said that Sony's quote, paying close attention to the handheld market following the PlayStation Portal's unexpected and unprecedented success. Although it's merely a Ps5 remote player as opposed to a Vita/PSP-esque handheld, the Portal has consistently sold well, surprising even Sony itself. A new PlayStation handheld has been rumored for a while. Report comes from the trusty Tom Henderson of The Verge, who claims to have spoken to a number of folks about the handheld market at Gamescom 2024. While he didn't specify who he spoke to, Henderson said that, quote, interesting hardware discussions, unquote, took place about the hardware market and advised his followers on X to start saving up, as he reckons that new and improved handhelds aren't too far off. Interestingly, Microsoft is also rumored to be delving into the handheld market, according to the numerous reputable insiders. But what about Sony? Well, according to Henderson, the PS Portal's massive success has resulted in the company, quote, paying very close attention to the current handheld market. Didn't we just say that? Man, we're really trying to get to that word count, aren't we, Miss Khan? I appreciate your work, though.
You just insulted her.
Listen, she knows the game.
Like, you support women? Huh?
Yeah.
Sure.
I gave her the click. You should go give the click for the rest of the article. It's good stuff. Anyways, yeah, again, I think the lines are blurred now. I don't think we have so many hard lines that we have to, or hard guidelines that we have to pay attention to anymore. I think the Nintendo Switch kind of changed everything. And then the Steam Deck kind of affirmed that change has happened. Like, we are no longer in a position to where there is a handheld and then there's a home console, right? You can kind of have both. You're going to have differences between the two models. So, like, if PlayStation were to drop a handheld of some kind, I would expect it to run around in the realm of probably $350, $450, somewhere around there. Not quite as much as the brand new shiny console, but it's going to play God of War Ragnarok fine, right? Not as well as your PlayStation 5, but it's going to play God of War Ragnarok, and there's going to be save transferring between the two, and it'll be native play, not through remote play. But remote play also will be an option as well. Like, I think they're going to have all the bells and whistles if they choose to go down that route.
Yeah.
Again, I think the real big thing about this is when they see the Switch 2 and what that does, and whenever they see the next iteration of Steam Deck and whatever that does. I think they've already got some R&D working on some stuff and trying to figure out, all right, well, what can we do? Mm-hmm. What can we put out, and would this be successful for us? I think it would.
They might have already had some lined up, in the workshop ready to be used if something like this came about. Who knows? Yeah. I had said before, past episodes, that Microsoft would be ones to jump into that market since it's one that's relatively untapped, all things considered.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm partly surprised that PlayStation will be the first person I'm hearing news from on making their own dedicated handheld console, especially.
Well, we've had leaks from Xbox,
but that's like, yeah, haven't we?
I think Xbox is in more active development of testing out something. I just don't think they're just not willing to show their hand yet. I think PlayStation is now caught off guard. You're not looking to have a new PlayStation thing for probably another 3 years.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And then it's the question of, all right, well, when do we put it out? Because 3 years from now, we're going to be looking forward at a PlayStation 6 or a PlayStation, call it whatever you want to call it. I don't think following the naming convention is going to work for too much longer. So I think they need to figure out something else. And I think that would be an experiment that they could go down. And it's a more homogenous PlayStation ecosystem as opposed to, hey, we got the Vita over here, or we have the PSVR 2 over here for modern context. And, you can get it if you want, but, we're not going to, support it all that well. Whereas, like, if they can put a handheld console on the go, probably going to be a little beefy, then I think that would attract people more, and it would be easier for them to support because it's still, you're playing your new, your big title games on these. So, like, I don't see how this would do anything except drive more sales.
PlayStation likes that. All these game companies like that, as we've seen with closing studios over money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
how many times are you like, well, maybe not you, but you've heard the thing of like people going, I would play that on X platform, but it's really more of like a game I want on the go. So I'm saving that for my Switch, or I'm saving that for my Steam Deck, or I'm saving that for my phone, something like that, right? There's clearly a desire via the PlayStation Portal's success. I have one. I love my PlayStation Portal. It's the fucking best. But if I could play it, downtimes at work where the internet's not so good, or if I could play it, out on the street while I'm waiting for something, or on a plane or things like that, that'd be cool too.
And that would make sense. But the thing that's strange to me is that you already have that in the form of the Switch. It's going to be improved with the Switch 2. PlayStation already has this lockdown on like consoles, home consoles. And so it seems kind of weird that they're like, well, we also want to get into this other thing when they should, I feel, focus more on just the console side of things. Whether that's upgrades to it, as you were saying before, making one that's just a bit more customizable, whatever's down the pipeline, or even just reinvesting it back into their games rather than their handhelds.
If there's clearly a desire from the public to play PlayStation games on the go, why would you not satiate that desire? Because it's clearly there. And there's definitely a percentage of people who see what the PlayStation Portal is and go, no, hit me when you have an actual handheld, right? Mm-hmm. And again, these aren't the days of old where like, okay, this is a new platform that we need to develop exclusive games to. It's the same thing. It's just a slightly lower version of it.
If they're able to get that to work.
That'd be the thing. They would need that to work. And I'm saying like it's probably more powerful than a Series S, which developers have been on record of saying they fucking hate. But if the Steam Deck is so successful, which it is, and the Switch, we revived Nintendo and made it a powerhouse again, then it would only make sense for PlayStation to go, what can we do? I think it'd be foolish of them not to. So I don't know. Like at the end of the day, like if it means I can play Horizon 3 on the go whenever I want, as opposed to only being able to play it on my TV, like I would pick that up, because or like a Persona 6.5, that's a game that I want on the go, and I would play it on a PlayStation mobile device because I like being on PlayStation. You know what I'm saying? And also, Persona 6 probably isn't going to be on Switch at launch. It just won't be. So, it's just the dynamics of it. Like, why wouldn't I want to play God of War, whatever, on the go?
Sure. Well, this might be the beginning of the new console war, handheld console war, depending on what Xbox does. All right, that's not a market.
I just think we're in an era of we have to meet the people now. Like in the sense of like we have to be where they are. Like they are not coming to us anymore. We need to go to them. Mm-hmm. And right now they want to buy the machine that they can take to school, or they can take to work, or they can take on a camping trip, et cetera, XYZ thing, or play on a plane. Like, especially as the gaming audience continues to get older and mature, and they're the ones with the money. There's no reason for a guy like Tavin to not be marketed towards. Obviously a kid is going to pretty much be at home all the time. But even then, it still works. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like,
parents want their kids to be distracted.
I think it's an untapped market for PlayStation. No, I think clearly they should do it.
Untapped market, definitely. I agree wholeheartly. I think it will have to remain to see if PlayStation specifically will be the one to occupy that space.
But didn't you just say, why would they do this if Switch is doing it?
Yeah, which is why I don't know if PlayStation would be exactly, able to.
So where's the logic there?
Where's the void?
Yeah.
Where's the void of the logic?
Yeah.
Yeah, where exactly is the void in the logic?
Because you're like, oh, well, clearly it's an untapped market. PlayStation should capitalize on it, but why would PlayStation do it? Switch is already doing it?
Well, untapped market in the sense of like the other people who don't make Nintendo games. The Microsoft types of games, the PlayStation, the AAA games. Because, like Switch, Nintendo, they have a type of game they make. They don't make bigger, higher end games. The way you were talking about it is you'll have things like God of War Ragnarok on your mobile. If you have God of War Ragnarok on your mobile device, well, then you're basically just doing carry around PlayStation 5s rather than like Nintendo being its own thing, which it's always occupied its own space.
Yeah.
Nintendo is Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's everything else.
But this would be closer to a Steam Deck.
Sure. But there's a lot of people who just don't really tap into the Steam Deck as much as they would like their console that they play, their home console, being made into a handheld version of it.
I don't think I've ever met somebody who would be like, no, I'm not interested, like, at all.
Me.
You wouldn't be interested in playing your PC games anywhere and then being able to upload it to your computer easily.
Not particularly. I play enough video games when I'm at home. I don't need to have another.
You Connor Elliott, who has aspirations of going on the road.
Yeah, that's what I got Switch for. When I go on the road.
But you don't like Nintendo games.
Well, I enjoy them, and there's a lot of games on Nintendo Switch games that aren't Nintendo games.
But what if you could play, Connor, what if you could play Warhammer on the go?
That's a wide-ranging thing to ask, Tavin. Warhammer what?
Space Marine 2 or Rogue Trader or any of them or
Rogue Trader certainly.
What's the next shit you're interested in? Dragon Age, Veilguard on the go. Like you wouldn't want fucking a Steam Deck to play Dragon Age on the go if you were going on the go?
I would not. If I was on the go, I would not be trying to be playing those kinds of games.
Why?
Because those games I like sitting down for. I like being able to not be.
Okay, but you can't drag your
them.
PC everywhere, and you're not necessarily always going to be attached to your PC.
Yeah, which is I don't want to be. That's the thing. I don't want to be on my PC or my console all the time. Twitch occupies that specific space where it's like, okay, this is the one handheld I happen to have because of the games they have on them. I'll just stick with this one. I have no aspirations to go beyond that.
That is such a weird perspective to have.
Yeah, fair enough.
Especially because Switch doesn't really cater to you.
No, but there's tons of games. There's enough games on there that do. Whether they're new games or particularly old games. Do you know how many Final Fantasies I have at my fingers whenever I please? I'd be spending way more time trying to do that than play, the new game that I've been playing hours on my console on anyway. This is the new big game.
I just feel like that's very short-sighted.
Maybe it is. It's what I like.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for the news segment. We're going to bring Phil in here and get to bussing on this here Banjo Kazooie. That's right. Video game, the Two Penny Gameclub, your video game book club, is back. So make sure you stick around for that. Until next time, have a great time. Make sure you like, subscribe, drop a comment for an audience 2 pennies next week. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, everyone.
What's poppin', players? Welcome back to a Two Penny Game Club, your monthly video game book club. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friends and co-hosts. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
I'm ordering pizza. How you doing?
He's ordering pizza. He's making it.
Hello.
And joining us in person once again, 2 in a row. Say hello to the people, Phil Shoemaker.
It's me. I'm Phil.
Phil?
Talk about Banjo.
Always a pleasure to have you here in person. I love the in-person energy that we get and the chemistry we get. Of course, one day it'll be a more consistent thing. It'll be a
Be a once in a blue moon.
I mean, we'll probably, host everything out of my own apartment or house or whatever for a long time. But ideally, one day it'll be like a going to the office type thing. Hopefully, like a year and a half from now, there will be like a dedicated room for it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Life is gonna life, guys. Life is gonna life. Anyways, this is your monthly video game book club in which me and the boys come to you once a month, the beginning of every month, and we review a game of we rank it amongst the other games in the series, such as Mario 64, such as Final Fantasy 7, such as Chrono Trigger, such as The Last of Us. Many, many, many games that we've reviewed on this series so far. Make sure you click the playlist in the description down below so that you can get caught up on everything we've said, everything we've talked about, and how we got to this point so far, and how we got to games like Yakuza 0 somehow still being in the fucking top fucking 5.
Deservedly, just keep bitching about it,
It's just, anyways, ladies and gentlemen.
If he bitches about it enough, maybe it'll change,
Today, we are here for Banjo Kazooie. Gentlemen, temperature check real quick. This is everybody's first time playing Banjo Kazooie.
It was.
It was my first time playing Banjo Kazooie. I've played Banjo Tooie before.
He's played Banjo Tooie, but first time playing Banjo Kazooie. Banjo Kazooie, of course, and we all played it on the Nintendo Switch N64 emulator thing that you have to pay a subscription service
the
for.
Nintendo Switch Online, Plus, whatever.
Pretty good service, not gonna lie.
Pretty good.
They've expanded on it greatly since they've launched it. It's pretty solid. A lot of great games in there. Anyways, Banjo Kazooie, initially released June 29th, 1998. It sold, as of 2021, about 3 million copies, making it the 10th highest grossing N64 game. It has a Metacritic of 92.
1 month after I was born.
Oh, hey, look at that. And then, just for sort of some context with other games that we've done on the series, such as Mario 64, which was released June 23rd, 1996, launched title for the N64. This Banjo was 2 years after that. And Mario 64 had a Metacritic of 94, so 92 to 94. So, in the general opinion, just as great, but, just a step down or whatever.
Why are you comparing them?
Well, comparing them, Connor, because they're both 3D action platformers with a mascot on the cover of it, and they're both N64 titles, and honestly, I think they're both pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. But how good are they, ladies and gentlemen? Let's go ahead and get into that. Banjo-Kazooie was just an absolute surprise. What a special treat for me to be able to play Banjo-Kazooie today. This was my first time playing it, as I said, and I really had... From the jump, had a great time playing it. Its age has not fully gotten in the way of it yet. There are still some little things that hold it back a little bit. Specifically, the camera does get in the way a lot. But Banjo, for the most part, controls pretty well. The physics of the game make a lot of sense, even more sense, I would say, than what Mario 64's physics sometimes felt like. And you're able to really get a great feel of how Banjo and Kazooie move and work together and play together, and the functions each of them kind of serve as a sort of co-op team. Functionally, one player character, but on screen there's two of them. I love the diversity of moves that Banjo has. I love how they slowly give you more and more little abilities and moves to use. I think the level design is pretty good and creative and inventive. It never really gets old. Every time I jump into a level, it truly feels like I've just unlocked a whole new batch of creativity. And yeah, I really don't have a lot of negative to say about Banjo-Kazooie outside of the last couple of levels aren't that great. Specifically, I think, what's it called? Rusty Bucket
Bay.
Rusty Bucket Bay is easily the worst level in the game. I think it's actually not good, maybe even bad. I think it's the only bad level of the game. And then I think the final boss is a little unnecessary and can be pretty frustrating when it clashes against sort of the archaic nature of the controls, which aren't that archaic. And if you do put yourself in the mindset of holding an N64 controller, all of the choices they make sense. But on a modern controller, it's really weird, using the directional stick, but that also controls the camera, but you use it also to use abilities. It gets really frustrating every single time I want to throw an egg and the camera moves and I go, fuck, just stay focused. Or, I found a lot in the final boss of moments of I would try to throw an egg right after using the golden feathers, and that instead, because the controller didn't input my left trigger pull, it instead would go into first person mode and get me hit and killed all the time. Yeah. It was driving me up the fucking wall. Anyways, but other than that, I think the levels are vast and creative. I love how much is in the game. There are a couple of things that I wish would track in terms of progress a little bit better. I think the music notes don't need to reset every time you enter a level. I think those should continue as you die or as you reset or leave a level and stuff like that, sort of like how the puzzle pieces do.
I did a little bit of research in terms of that. So they did, when Rare was purchased by or acquired by Microsoft back in the day, they when they did Rare Replay and they did all the re-releases for Xbox Live Arcade, all the stuff for Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, they actually changed how that worked, and you kept the progress of how many music notes you got. So it's only in the N64 version that it resets every time.
Well, I wish we had that version. No, but yeah, I wish sort of, at least with the music notes, the progress would change or would track. Even the Silver Skulls track too. So why not this thing that is vital to game progression? I don't know. Anyways.
I think it was one of those things where it was still, people were still trying to hold on to the high score era of games.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a fair point.
That's kind
That
of
kinda
my
makes sense.
that's my thinking of it.
Yeah, well, even when you jump out of the level, they go, "Oh, your high score
Yeah.
is this, that,
You
and the
got
third." Yeah.
Bottles. He's like, oh, your note score was this.
Yeah,
whatever.
but it's just it's frustrating because like music note progress isn't tied to which notes you pick up. It's just the number you pick up.
Yeah.
So there's no way to track like if you die or if you reset, or if you leave a level and come back. There's no way to check if you've collected those notes before. So it's really hard to keep track of like what you've actually progressed in. And then on top of that, this is gonna sound weird. The sound effects are great. I like all the little jingles and doodads and noises that everything makes. I think the sound design in the sense of how those sounds are implemented is terrible. It gets so annoying hearing Kazooie all the time. It gets so annoying running down the street and picking up 5 red feathers at once or 5 blue eggs at once and just hearing that noise again and again and again. This is a game that if I played in my childhood, my mother would have been driven up the wall because she's very she gets annoyed by sound very easily.
Yeah.
She would have told me to shut this shit off all the fucking time.
fucking mute button.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, overall, I think Banjo-Kazooie is a pretty great game. I think it's got a lot of charm. I think its writing is pretty whatever, but
it's funny.
I mean, it's got moments of funny and wittiness, but it's a lot of like dumb jokes. I think specifically when you get to like the nice witch who like talks crap on her sister, like all of those are really bad jokes or whatever.
You know something funny about that? So that element of it is changed every playthrough. So like her like backstory from like whatever. Oh, Grunty was this in high school, or that changes every time.
Does it really?
Yeah.
That explains why it's written so terribly.
I'm assuming you know its implementation in the quiz, correct?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's
Which
all
I
part
think
of the
is,
quiz.
I think that quiz is pretty insane. like especially this is a kids game and how in depth some of those things are and how long ago you unlock some of those little notes or whatever. You got to take notes to get through that quiz. I save scummed my way through, and I'll say that as well. Like the constant resetting and the checkpointing being what it is from the era it's in is just so archaic that like the ability to drop a save wherever you are in the N64 online expansion pass is a needed quality of life improvement. Like I can't imagine playing through some of these levels, especially like Rusty Bucket Bay or what is the Click Clock
Wood.
Click Clock
Wood, which I liked that level. It just went on way too long.
That one, I actually prefer Rusty Bucket Bay over Click Clock.
So do I.
So does he. I don't understand that because like Click Clock is like it's a good level and it's a cool gimmick. It takes 2 hours where every other level takes 1 hour.
I think maybe we're similar in that we're not big fans of like when they switch it to just being vertical based.
It's more the seasons. Like its main gimmick is like, okay, we're going to give you the same map over and over, which isn't that good of a map to begin with.
It's not that good of a map.
Yeah, and then to do it 4 times, it became very annoying.
It's also annoying, like you have to plan, like because it's all progression based, like as you traverse through the seasons.
Yeah,
but
which is cool.
Like in my brain, I went because you start in spring, go into summer, and then fall, right? Well, I didn't go into the fall. But in the summer, you break the rock at the bottom of the river or whatever. So in my head, I go, oh, rock's broken now. So I went back to spring.
Oh.
And the rock wasn't broken. It took another, like, go through the levels of, like, oh, I have to follow the progression through the seasons also. I can't, like, backtrack through time. Which was also kind of funny because, like, when you got to...
neat mechanic. I'm not,
Yeah, no, yeah, I think it's neat and it's cool. It just, it takes too long.
Yeah.
You spend so long in that level. It was funny too because like going into winter, I knew the river was going to be frozen over again. In my head, I knew they weren't going to do this, but in my head, I was like, it'd be really funny if we went up to the beaver's house and he was like dead because he had spent months trapped up there because
didn't survive.
The river froze over. He couldn't get out and get food.
It turns into like the Gray or something like that. Yeah.
Which is also funny when you go up to the squirrel's house. He got a little lady up in there.
Oh,
does he?
Yeah, he's got a little lady up in the bed with him. When he's sleeping. I was like, look at it, good for you, squirrel. Anyways,
I do kind of want to just backtrack to You talking about like you being a kid and having to like take this. Like this was the era where you really just had like the one game, right?
Yeah.
So you like you learned this game like the back of your hand. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like games were also like more expensive back then too.
Yeah.
You know, or I
Comparatively.
guess, comparatively after inflation. You know.
Yeah.
So this, I think, I'm not gonna like say that it excuses it. It has more of a like, you know, when you're a kid, you kind of learn stuff like that because like you play the same game over and over and over and over, or like for months, maybe even years. You know,
This is a game
waiting
much
for a
like
birthday or a Christmas.
This is a game much like a lot of the other older games that we've played on this list so far that like you have to meet it sort of halfway, but it's not the hardest trek to meet it halfway. I think Mario 64 is an era of design and, you know, also first time trying out the 3D era type stuff where like meeting it halfway is a lot more work than meeting this game or Metal Gear or even Final Fantasy 7 halfway. Those games are a lot easier to meet halfway than Mario 64 was. But Connor, you known not too into platformers, this being sort of a 3D platformer collectathon type game. I'm curious as to how you felt about Banjo-Kazooie.
Well, you see, it very much apes off seems to be kind of an insulting term, but it kind of does Mario 64. Not just in the sense of being a 3D
The inspiration
platformer.
is so clear.
Yeah, I mean, like puzzle pieces taking the place of stars to unlock new doors to go further into the hub
called
world.
jiggies,
Get more hub worlds.
okay?
Yeah, jiggies. My bad. But then you also
How
have
uncomfortable do you get saying that? It's
No, I like jiggies.
I get a little. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that one.
Just hanging out with my jiggies.
That and what are the little colored guys called?
Jinjos.
Jinjos.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
What? What?
Listen,
You're the one that called them colored
listen,
guys.
1998 was a different time, all right? It was a different time. Anyways, I'm sorry, Connor. We cut you off.
98. No,
98.
Yeah.
96 was
Mario
64.
Still in the thought of Mario 64 because that was a game where I understood its importance, but when I played the game, it frustrated me. Not really because, well, just because of the camera, the fact that Mario moving in the world, he was kind of skatey, like you're always on an ice level, and that plus the camera made, and the level design getting pretty lackluster in like the halfway to end point, made me sour on the game substantially. And so I was kind of fearful, like, okay, maybe this will be better than Mario 64 in that sense. Maybe it won't be that much better. I didn't know what to expect going in. And so I was pleasantly surprised when I effectively enjoyed my experience all the way through up until that last level. And it falling prey to this really annoying mechanic. It goes back to what you guys were talking about with you always replay a game. And so you're always getting puzzle pieces. You're always getting musical notes, which is the other aspect they used to change it up compared to Mario 64. Just another facet of it to make you explore the levels to progress further in the game. It, you know, struggling to remember what my original point was. My original point was that it never lets up. You know, it gives you a whole list of moves that make it already more investing than a Mario 64, which once again is only possible because of the fact that Mario 64 existed in the first place. But after a while, you stop thinking about that because of the charm and the level design being a lot more creative than the comparison to Mario 64. And it stands on its own very well to the point where even though it's, you know, it's definitely outdated, I'm able to control my character easy enough. You know, I very rarely ever thought that I was getting screwed over by the game itself in how I was failing or succeeding in levels. But, oh yeah, my original point was, you know, it makes you go to these, you know, get all these musical notes and these jiggies, and it gets to a point near the end of the game where you're just having to basically get cock-blocked to go back to other levels, to go and do that over and over again, which is never a fun experience. And once again, I know it's partly because it's a game that's meant to be replayed over and over and over again.
Or just rather, not so much replayed, but like just thoroughly explored.
Yeah, yes.
Exactly.
Like this is a game that I can imagine a child like never really getting past the first level. Like, you know, there's a lot of games where like you played back in the day where you're like, oh yeah, I spent so much time in the first like 1, 2, 3 levels. I never beat it or anything like that. But like, and then like you come back or when you do unlock a new level or a new part of the map or anything like that, you go, oh wow, all this is here. Oh wow,
That's my experience with something like Bob on Battlefield in Mario 64 or the first homeworld of Spyro. Just like constantly just running around that first like 5 levels.
Yeah.
Just, like those first 5 levels
doing
in Spyro.
nothing. doing
Exactly.
nothing.
Yeah.
Just running around.
Running around, killing Norks, collecting gems. Flaming sheep that are just running around minding their own business, getting extra lives for sparks that I would never spend because I would never leave the homeworld in Spyro.
Yeah. Connor?
Yeah, and it plays well enough to where it's a lot more accessible than a lot of other games of that era. It's got charm that carries itself through pretty well. One of the things that Mario 64, and this is probably the last time I'm going to make a strong comparison to it, since that kind of get boring after a while. But Mario 64, after a certain point, you're just like, okay, time to go get stars, and your next couple hours are just, that and only that. Whereas this, at least, it shakes it up a little bit with the dialogue that goes on. The witch constantly making rhymes that are a little bit cheesy, but you enjoy that random, or random 2 cents that she just includes when you're running through the home world, or the massive amounts of insults thrown by Kazooie, which I found funny each time. Just this.
Well, it's the banter between not even just like Kazooie against Grunty, but it's like Kazooie just bantering with bottles. They're back and forth all the time.
See, I didn't love Kazooie as a character. I like the design and the function and like the noises that Kazooie makes. But when she does start just insulting, when we walk up to like this like lonely little tree, and the tree's like, "Oh, I'm so thirsty, help!" and she just walks up and goes, "What's up, dry nuts?" And I'm like, "Whoa,
That's what's funny.
You don't know this guy."
That's the thing, because you have Banjo, who's the typical like, he's the the N64 kind of character. He's goofy. He's pretty friendly guy.
Yeah.
And then you just have the sidekick, who's a stark contrast to that.
It's my same problem. If you went back and watched the old After the Hype reviews, it's the same problem I had with Daxter. Was it the first one I had a problem with him? The first one where Daxter's a fucking jackass.
Well,
all the way through the game.
I think your main issue with Jak and Daxter was the fact that like the call to action in that game is to try to help Daxter go back to normal. And Daxter's just fucking with you the entire time. Like every time you die, it's like, say goodnight, Jak.
Yeah, dude. Like, you know how like Arkham villains make fun of you when you die in Arkham? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Daxter does that to you in the first Jak and Daxter game, where he just goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Fucking helping you, asshole."
But that's the difference.
In the second one, he gets a little bit better, where he'll go, "No, Jak, get up, Jak," like type shit.
Their relationship definitely like is more clear, like as they're friends in the second 2 games.
And to that point, with Kazooie, kind of skirts around that because they clearly have an affinity for one another. They're friends, and especially because of the fact that Kazooie's such an asshole to everybody and still gets along with Banjo. So it kind of added that nice, it wasn't very much a present dynamic throughout the entirety of the game, because it's not like they're constantly talking. It's not like dialogue goes on and on and on. It's only when you meet characters within the levels themselves. It's just when you do, there's always something to chuckle at, or at least pay attention to.
Did you guys feel bad for the camel that you had to keep stealing water from?
No, I thought it was funny.
The first time was funny when he comes back for the plant and you have to keep fucking doing it to him. I was like, man, I'm sorry.
I'm going to the magma level. I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Do you like how he talks about that lava world and then there's not a lava world?
Which, okay, I said I wasn't going to compare it to Mario 64. I found it just very funny that the game almost seemed to be insulting Mario 64 because you go to the ice level.
Yeah, and there's a giant snowman just like at the fucking...
Well, it's not even that. It was the fact that in Mario...
Freeze Easy Peak.
Freeze Easy Peak, you're right.
Great snow level, by the way.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite level.
And that's one of mine, yeah.
And that's the thing, because in Mario 64, in addition to the fact that your character already kind of moves when you stop moving or after you jump or whatever, it obviously increases more because you're in the ice world. In this one, Banjo functions the same exact way. But one of the interesting mechanics this game has, the multiple interesting mechanics, is that you get on Kazooie's, back, and she carries you around and moves around the map faster. And in the case of the snow level, completely eradicates the aspect of sliding a little bit when you stop. And so it's kind of like, we're going to make a generic ice level that has, the way you operate like every other platformer.
I don't know if it was generic at the time.
No, not generic at the time, but it's definitely now. But even still is like, well, we have a function in our game that allows you to curtail this. So suck it, You're not going to complain about that. Which I never did, because the snow level, usually those are very hard. A lot of people don't like them, but that one was very solid. And it speaks to the level of game design that this game has, because it's not just that mission. It's the, Poison Swamp mission that Souls is famous for now.
Yeah.
That was very fun to me. I very much enjoyed the first opening levels as well. Mumbo's Mountain, Treasure Island Cove. They're very simple ones, but they felt like the
Great
tasks.
opening level.
Great. Because the tasks that you're doing always seemed fun. Whether obviously sometimes you would find your jiggy pieces just diving in deep enough into water, but other times you would fight a giant hermit crab. Other times you would fucking you'd have to shit in a bucket. And then you raise water levels and type things.
He keeps calling it like shit in a bucket.
It's
Just using the egg.
Yeah,
It literally
it's
just
an egg.
plant an egg.
It fart noise, like the fart noise, like
It does make a fart noise. It does make a fart.
it doesn't really help
You're
that
right,
case
you're
of
right.
not calling it shitting.
Speaking to sort of the dichotomy, we talked about the duo chemistry of Banjo Kazooie. I feel like I'm coming off negative on Kazooie. I like Kazooie, but like I legit think Banjo and Kazooie is one of the best gaming duos out there. Like
There's a reason people were like desperate for them to go up and smash.
yeah, and for them to come back in some way. Like I mean, I'd have to think about it a little deeper, but like. I mean, Ratchet and Clank, I think clearly is the peak of this conversation, but like Banjo and Kazooie might be two.
For me, it's Jack and Daxter, but
I just don't like Daxter. But Phil, I want to get to you, my friend. What did you think about Banjo and Kazooie?
Well, I had a great time with this game. I don't usually put all my thoughts down, but there's a really slow day at work one day, so I was like, let me just kind of write everything down. I kind of laid it out in a way that's just kind of. I think it's pretty good review in my opinion. But
Hey,
you're
here we
the
go.
judge.
Let us have it.
Banjo Kazooie is a classic 3D platforming collectathon adventure. Of one of those classic type things where we kind of compared it to Mario 64. I think this is for me. This other than like I think I definitely played Spyro first because I didn't play 2E until I was a little older. But this is like one of the first like collectathon like series that I've played like in my life.
Yeah. Ooh, I forgot about Spyro. Spyro's weird because it's so like it's got the training wheels on.
Yeah.
In comparison to this, I definitely like this more than the first Jack and Daxter. And you were talking the comparisons to Mario 64. I think part of it is it gets tedious. Every time you get a star, you get kicked out the level, and then you jump back in. And sure, they change it up, star to star within the level or whatever. But like, I just really, really love that. Like, it's like jump in, 10 puzzle pieces, figure it out.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
I love that like openness. Kind of just
the
like,
levels are bigger too,
Oh, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Like bigger than Mario 64.
Yeah. Not by much, but they're bigger, right?
I'd say they're
Or at least they're more
all-
complex.
they're all relatively on par with like I'd say Bob-omb Battlefield.
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, it might be a little bit bigger. I don't know. They feel bigger.
Bomb Battlefield
Pretty big.
is pretty big. But
pretty
okay, no.
big.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Banjo Kazooie seems to put more into its world.
There's definitely more in
Additionally,
each
yeah.
level.
I think Banjo Kazooie kind of just does a better job of like all the worlds feel more interconnected.
Yeah,
Because you have like the hub world of Grunty's lair, right? So,
Tilda
like,
use you.
I
they
think
call
it's
her
because,
Grunty.
That's true.
I think it's because they don't break it up with loading screens,
Yeah.
like telling you the name of the level every time, and on top of
You don't
that,
have
like,
that. You don't have the intro.
yeah, which I do like that, so I'm not taking away from that. But like, and then on top of that, nope, I don't remember where I was going with that thought. So continue with your
Anyway,
with your thing.
continuing from that sentence, as the leading 3D platformer expert here at Two Penny Games, I think it's safe to say that I really enjoyed my time with this game.
Heyo.
The plot is nothing special,
No.
It's your sister gets kidnapped by a witch, which is funny enough. She's not in the second game. And
I'm sorry, that was really funny.
and you gotta go save her with your bird friend in your backpack. The story is just here to facilitate the adventure. Banjo is one of the best feeling characters to control right off the bat. Every move he does feels very natural and just clicks with me. I like the slow but steady trickle of new moves that Bottles the Mole teaches you if you find him in the first few areas. The game does a good job of giving you more moves to change things up and keep things fresh, but not too much as to make you feel overwhelmed. Where I did feel overwhelmed at moments was the sheer amount of different things that you pick up / collect. You've got Jiggies, Jinjos, music notes, Mumbo Skulls, red feathers, gold feathers, eggs, extra honeycombs, and extra lives. A lot of stuff. And then I kind of ended it off with being developed by Rare. It's no surprise to hear that the music is great. The character designs are goofy and fun, and the levels are creative, colorful boxes to run around and explore.
Yeah. I'm into all of that. When we were on the topic of levels, I forget the name of it now, but it's basically the water level of the game. The one where there's the shark.
Clanker's Cabin.
Clanker's Cabin.
Yep, that's it.
Did not like that level. Did not like it at all.
The robot fish.
Yep. I think it's because along with
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with Rusty Bucket, it's so water based, and I don't think Banjo and Kazooie feel well underwater. I don't think they swim well.
Yeah, they're very slow.
They're very slow and like floaty in a weird way. I found myself often aiming for something and missing it.
Yeah.
Part of that is due to the camera and sort of how the depth perception is in this game. But yeah, I just constantly felt like I was not fully in control of Banjo and Kazooie when I was underwater.
And there's the whole like stigma with like these kinds of games and water levels.
Yeah.
You know, and how they're always
this
usually
attributes
the weakest.
to that. Yeah. But I didn't. What's weird
This is like one of the worst offenders.
What's weird is Mario 64 underwater didn't bother me that much, and I think it's because when Mario is on land, I have the same problem with Mario on land as I do with Banjo underwater. You know what I'm saying? Where like I just don't feel fully in control of this character. Like he's just a little floaty in some weird ways. The depth perception is a little weird. Like the physics just aren't quite right. And I think just the 2-year gap between those, Banjo's able to figure out on land stuff a lot better, but still is suffering in the underwater department.
It's one of those things where like your normal swim by just holding the A button
Too slow.
is way too slow.
Way too slow.
And then your like special flap that Kazooie does, it's a nice quick burst, but it slows down so quick. And like, you know, you're just kind of slowly
I think it's like also
water.
like I feel like if they just speed up that normal swim, that would negate some of my critiques because like there's no reason to use that normal swim.
That's the thing. There isn't a reason to use it. I didn't have as many problems with the swimming as much as you guys seem to have because the way I saw it was the main method of swimming was your dash. Was your B.
Yeah.
But A was only to course correct. It was to do those small little, I need to turn here so I can know exactly where I'm going.
Yeah,
Not really one that you swim at. Or
maybe I'm not switching.
I see
That's what I
see that like side of it for sure.
Yeah.
Also, minute things like when you're trying to get those jiggy pieces, you just gotta like move a little bit.
Yeah, you got those like music notes that are like in a row.
Yeah,
like
It was killing me with the
crevice.
what's his name? Muncher?
Mumbo Jumbo. Oh no,
The shark, the robot shark.
Clanker.
Clanker. When you go deep down to like give some slack to the chain,
Yeah.
chasing after the air bubbles is the first time in this game where I was like, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it because I just kept dying. That was the level that taught me, fuck everything else, save scum the shit out of this game. It was that level that taught me to do that because I just kept drowning and losing progress. And I was like, I'm gonna lose my shit, dude.
It's tough.
That's funny because when I was doing that, I never died. But the battle I had to stay alive was ever constant. I was like,
It gave me the same anxiety that I remember like as a kid playing like one of those 2D Sonics and you got like the music coming in.
I can't relate to that, but I understand what you're saying.
It's also one of those things of like, damn near everything you find in this game is hostile, right? Almost everything, unless they have a problem, like the dolphin pinned by the anchor or the tree or things like that, right?
Right.
Or the giant robot shark.
I love that. Like
So the little fish that's deep down by the key where you turn to relent the shark or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought it was hostile.
Same.
So I didn't realize that it was like it wasn't until like I was like, I'm just gonna let the fish kill me, and it walked up to me and then talked to me, and I went, God damn it!
I love that. Like it's just a staple for Rare games where like they'll just put the same goofy eyes on like an inanimate object.
Yeah.
That's a character now.
Yeah,
go,
listen.
Character, it's an enemy, you know.
Whatever you want.
I think this is the first Rare game that I've really played.
Oh, really? You haven't played Conker's Bad Fur Day?
I've not played Conkers.
Nope.
What else they did? Goldeneye.
Goldeneye, yeah.
I've only
007?
played moments of Gold. I've only played Goldeneye in bursts.
There's a really cool. I say really cool. It's kind of just okay, but they do. They kind of flex their Goldeneye muscle in Banjo Tooie. There's like a first person shooter element. Where you basically hold Kazooie like in the.
I've seen this animation.
Yeah, you hold her as a gun. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's where the Smash Bros. movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
The absolute charm.
It's an FPS.
the absolute charm of all of this is fantastic to me. Like I really think, or I never played like Donkey Kong 64 either. Those are rare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I never played any of
64 kicks so much ass.
Yeah, I never played any of those. So like for this one, like jumping out the gate, it's their own original thing, and just the way that they just flush out their worlds, the way that it, like sort of to what you were saying, Phil. I just can't pinpoint what it is, but the way the world is unified in a way. Like it has its own character, despite you're literally jumping into different worlds that are like very different from each other, but like they all feel interconnected in a way that like Mario 64 never really does. Each individual level feels like its own world in that game, whereas this does feel all the way connected somehow. And I don't know what is tying all of that together.
If I can make a quick little like analogy, I think with Mario 64, it's like you're at an art museum. And each of the different paintings, it's different artists, different styles.
Yeah.
But Banjo-Kazooie is like when you go to like the Museum of Natural Science, and you have all these different exhibits that are like all relatively the same focus.
Yeah.
And to that point, I think to answer your question about why it works better, it feels like an actual area, the hub world. Whereas Mario, it was just like that's the method of how you choose levels.
Peach's Castle.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
You don't?
No, I think I think Peach's Castle is better than
It's a better hub world.
Grunty's
Grunty's lair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Grunty?
Well, Gruntilda, but
Gruntilda.
they call her Grunty sometimes.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
I wouldn't say that. I think that there's more things that you do in the hub world to try and get access to Jiggy pieces.
Exploring Gruntilda's lair is more exciting to me because it's almost a level in itself, whereas Peach's Castle is just a go to this room, now you're in this level type thing. But like that opening area of Mario 64 outside the castle is so iconic, and it's iconic for a reason.
I was gonna say that too, just about Peach's Castle. Like, in general.
It's iconic, but then you just like that area, especially you go inside and you don't really interact with it that much. This one, you interact with the areas a lot. Whether it's finding, like I remember one of the things you didn't realize is that there's that pipe in like after you get the first note door opened, then there's like the part up top that you can go through to go to another area, and there's also the one down there. In the water that you go to, and
it was there's a pipe that like water is coming out of, and there's like an area above, like directly above the pipe, and I recognized that, and I recognized everything below it, but I didn't recognize that you could just go into the pipe. And so I was like, oh, that's cool.
And there's stuff like that where it's just like you really feel like you're exploring the hub world as opposed to just here it is.
I agree that sense of exploration is definitely higher
Which,
here.
before you go to your point,
Yeah.
I recognize that Mario 64's hub world has like stars that you can find, and you have to kind of do some things to get to them.
Staring up at the sun.
Yeah, but it felt less interesting and investing than Gruntilda's.
I'm not mad at that.
I had a really like in very very early on in my experience with Banjo, around that same area, like the pipe thing, where I think it's the area right before you go to Treasure. I've been so good with the names on levels, but like the Treasure something Cove.
Yeah, what's the
Treasure something?
Treasure Cove.
Treasure Cove.
Something like that.
Something like
There's
that.
another word there.
The second level.
Yeah.
Right before going there, you jump down, and like because you do the jigsaw, the chest open. You have to go down and get the chest to go in. When I came out of Treasure Cove, I was like, am I just stuck yet down here now? Like, how do I get back? And then I saw the pipe on the wall, and I was like, oh, I can climb this. Okay, I'm just an idiot. I'm just an idiot. Okay.
The climbing's great. I love the climbing. I don't know. Like, I'm torn when we talk about hub worlds here between the two, because like I agree with you, Connor. Like exploring Gruntilda's lair is more interesting, more exciting. They are doing more in it. I do think they're cheating because in this era, every year that passed had gigantic technological leaps. Like this was the what do they call it in history? The great
Renaissance.
No,
the Great Leap Forward?
More American centric.
Great Leap Forward, I think.
Manifest Destiny.
No.
Western expansionism.
Anyways, every year, there were great technological leaps being made during this era. So, like, it being 2 years in advance, like, gives it such a
the Enlightenment.
No, gives it
trying,
such.
keep trying.
This is driving me crazy too. It like drives it so much forward, and I just think but I think moment to moment in Gruntilda's lair, I never felt like I knew where the door or the passage or the pipe I was taking. Anytime I left or a loading screen would happen where the puzzle piece would come in or whatever, I never 100% knew where I was coming out on the other side. Much like kind of how we felt during Resident Evil, where I was like, I think I know where this door goes, but like I don't really know. Like directionally, I know I'm going the right way, but I don't know what's on the other side of this door.
Sure.
Is kind of how I felt in here. Whereas Mario 64, exploring Peach's castle, yes, it's much more simple. It's like they keep to a kind of the same color scheme for the most part and like design aesthetic for the most part. But like I always knew where I was in the castle. You know what I mean? And like part of that is because they didn't break it up with loading screens, so my brain didn't segment the rooms out, you know. But I think just part of that is just something to be said about 64 of like the design of that hub world does make you go, yeah, good shit.
I just I was fighting myself. I was about to look up the name. Treasure Trove Cove.
There it is.
Treasure
Yeah, I
Trove
knew there was another
Cove.
word. There was another word I was missing.
And while we're on that topic, the Industrial Revolution.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't have to look it up. I thought of it.
Gentlemen, anything else we have to say about?
Yeah, one last thing I think we should focus on more is the combat.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's not the best. And honestly, you said you hate the combat mechanics a lot. I never really found those, unless I'm putting words in your mouth. You seem like you didn't-
I haven't said that on mic. It was a brief conversation we had last night. I think combat is the weakest part of the game. I think that's because of how stiff Banjo and Kazooie feel when you press the action button. You know,
in addition to the enemies.
yeah, and the enemies, like sometimes it's not clear how the hitboxes work or I understood I took damage. I don't know like why that happened, or I don't know why my attack didn't negate the damage sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. There's just like a little bit of jankiness to the combat overall that like could have used just some more polish. The main thing I think about it is like your neutral attack, which should be your most used attack, completely useless. Absolutely just the most like, the little whop. I think the problem is that he walks forward and that you can't interrupt the combo. Let it be a combo.
You also can't change direction.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So whereas like the jump attack, Phil, you mentioned off camera, is probably the best attack in the game. I liked the roll a lot. Connor, you actually showed me how great the bird bash move is.
Yeah,
that moves great too.
I didn't use it so much for combat. It was more like hitting wall switches or like
breaking doors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there are the enemies that charge you. It's really effective to use like the box boss fight where it's the big box and you break it up apart. I used that attack a lot in that fight, you know.
I like the ground pound a lot too.
To be fair,
I like the ground pound.
I like it.
Yeah, I never found like the enemy with Mario. It seemed like the enemies were made to be ground pounded. They were Mario enemies.
Well,
This one they felt like they did that because that's what you do in these kinds of games, but they're big and bulky, and you don't exactly go high enough for it to be effective.
I do like that Kazooie is the more powerful attacks. Things that are beak focused, that is, do a lot of damage. Whereas like Banjo will do like an okay damage, and then the eggs are like just like kind of crappy attacks, right? Like I like that there's power tiers between the different moves. It's just how they feel to use those moves don't feel great. On top of that, jumping. I think jumping for the most part feels pretty good in this game.
Wish the glide was a little better.
It just needs to be a little longer, right? Just a little longer.
Banjo's heavy, I get it.
But I also like that, like, I like that
Here's a bear.
the two kind of complement each other. Banjo doesn't get very high, but he can go pretty far, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Kazooie...
He does when he hangs out in Mumbo Jumbo. Gets high.
Okay. but Kazooie gives you that vertical leap with the crouch jump type thing. And I like how much control you have over the duo with the crouch jump. You know, Mario, he basically just goes straight up or like just backwards. Banjo kind of goes in whatever direction you want him to go when you do the vertical jump. I like the dichotomy of that. I do wish there was I think I just wish the double jump was better.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not a very good double jump. It is good for distance. It's just not very good for height. I do wish it was a little better for height.
I was going to say, kind of talking about Banjo Tooie again. I mentioned how the sister isn't in it. I can't remember her name because, she's just a girl.
Tootie.
Tootie. That's it. It is Tootie. Immediately as soon as you said it.
I think they name her like 3 or 4 times in the game.
So
That's it.
she's not in the second game at all.
That's hilarious.
And then Bottles fucking dies.
Why?
Why?
Like in the first cutscene.
All right. There might be a silver lining to this. In this game, is Gruntilda hot?
When she takes 2D's good looks.
Also
In the
weird that
second
the
game?
save and quit is just a game over.
Huh?
In the second game? No, I'm talking about the second game.
Oh,
Is
no.
Gruntilda even in it?
Yeah.
Is she hot?
No. She's like a skeleton.
Oh, shit. I remember that.
Evil
Yes.
witch, Connor. It's got to be an evil witch.
But no,
But she could be evil and
like,
hot, like she is in
when
the
you
ending.
save and quit, there's a
Yeah.
whole cutscene where you see I think his name is Dr. Mungo.
yeah.
And you see
Yeah, the body switch thing.
No,
Yeah.
Mungo's
Yeah.
the skeleton guy.
that's Mumbo Jumbo.
No, what he's saying,
Yeah.
it's the dude at the end of the game
Yeah, I know
in
you're
the,
talking
in the
about,
science
I
thing.
think his name is Mungo. Dr. Mungo.
Yeah, I confused it with the other guy.
But no, so yeah, Bottles fucking dies. They kill him in the first cutscene.
Pretty cool.
And like
guy.
you just see his like ghost kind of interacts with you through the
Ruined
game.
my
so.
whole day. I don't even want to play Banjo Tooie now.
It's a better game. It's a
I'm
better
sure
game.
it is.
It's a hell of a lot darker.
I
So
bet. I
apparently,
believe that
yeah.
too, yeah. I think that about covers
Yeah,
it, gentlemen.
I'm ready to
So,
rank it. I'm ready to rank her.
It is time to rank this bad boy. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, of course, every game that we play in the game club gets ranked and put into a list.
And the bottom game is Fable there. I'm blocking it.
Yeah, you're blocking it. Yeah, they'll see it when I move over to the other thing again when it becomes a little more conversational.
Yeah.
And so the list is as follows. Number 26. There are 26 games on the list. Stick with me here. 26, Fable. 25, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. 24, Prey. 23, Tomb Raider. That's the 2013 one.
2013.
2012?
13.
Okay. 22, Batman Arkham Asylum. 21, Uncharted Drake's Fortune. 20, Halo Combat Evolved. Number 19, Dead Cells. Number 18, Shadow of the Colossus. Number 17, Mario 64. Number 16, Resident Evil 4. Number 15, Portal. Number 14, Pokemon Soul Silver. Number 13, Severed. Number 12, Resident Evil. Number 11, Chrono Trigger. Number 10, Dishonored. Number 9, Metal Gear Solid. Number 8, Shovel Knight. Number 7, Portal 2. Number 6, Doom. Number 5, Yakuza 0. Number 4, Hades. Number 3, Final Fantasy 7. Number 2, The Last of Us. And number 1, the best game we've played so far. I just say that to Bug Connor. God of War Ragnarok. Gentlemen, where do we want to stick Banjo-Kazooie? Phil, I want to start with you today.
I'm not allowed to.
Fuck you.
No, wait
Sit
a second.
the fuck down. Shut
Wait
the
a
fuck up.
second.
I'm not allowed to start.
You always start.
Tiebreaker.
I literally because we've been over this before. I literally always go for the review segment in the beginning, me, Connor, Phil, and then for voting, Phil, Connor, me.
I thought with the review part we do like already has experience with it.
I'll switch it up. Sometimes,
okay.
depending on things.
I
you
don't
know.
remember ever giving my opinions first.
It happens.
I don't think I did it for Doom.
No, because he told you to shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down.
That's
He
harsh
was
way of
very
saying it.
disrespectful. He was very disrespectful.
Harsh way of saying it, but I basically did. say
Well, I want to start the bidding at the new number 16.
Oof.
Right
Above Resident Evil 4, but below Portal.
Correct.
Interesting. Expound.
Well, I believe that this game is I prefer this game to Mario 64, hands down. And I don't think it's quite as like deep is not the word I'm looking for, but I just mean like it's not as like complex mechanically as Portal is, and how like kind of simple that complexity becomes with Portal, because like, it almost becomes second nature, where it's like, hey, blue portal goes into orange portal, and you interact with puzzles in that sense. And I think it just snugly fits right underneath Portal. I think Resident Evil 4, from what I have played, is a lot of fun. But I think I overall just prefer Banjo-Kazooie to Resident Evil 4 as well. But I don't think it's quite beyond the level of Portal as a
Connor.
Well, me and Phil talked about it a little bit when you were not in the room about where we were placing this. The big question, and I thought you were going to make a bigger case for it in the discussion, just as a comparison number game, with Mario 64. Because Mario 64 makes this game exist.
Yeah.
And Banjo heavily relies on the mechanics and the design of Mario 64 to create its game as well, just beyond being a 3D platformer. So with that in mind, there was the conversation of, do I rank it below Mario 64 or above it because it's a more fun game? Because of those reasons of Mario 64 coming first. While that's a discussion that could be had and could sway it being below or above it, ultimately I think the charm and the level design, which are things that even if you make them based off of Mario, you really are only succeeding on those based off how you make your game. And, they did it well with Banjo and Kazooie. And for that reason, I would put it above Mario 64. But the real question becomes with Resident Evil 4. Same as Phil. With Portal, you see, that's also kind of in the conversation. But, I made my decision. Sometimes I talk myself into a certain decision. But, in this case, it's what it was originally.
You convince yourself otherwise.
Yes, I do. Or you guys really do as well.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to go with my original spot. Same as Phil, the new number 16, just above Resident Evil 4.
Oh, wow.
The reason is Resident Evil 4 drops off.
It does.
After a certain point.
A cliff, apparently.
What's that?
A cliff, apparently.
Yeah, which, Banjo-Kazooie does.
That third island, or that island is really bad.
and Banjo-Kazooie kind of does as well, but not to the same degree.
Yeah.
I like Rusty Bucket Bay, and so, it's more click-clack wood, and having to collect all those puzzle pieces just to get to the end of the game. Just that last little hurdle that it's kind of annoying to have to
Which, again,
jump over.
wouldn't have been a problem if you were playing for your own enjoyment and not on a deadline.
Right.
Which is true. But I also, with these games, I never feel the need to get everything in the mission. So I wouldn't even have done that to begin with. And so that kind of
What are you doing?
I was gonna say, why
getting
this game? That's what this game encourages,
Yeah, but it's not like I'm not so invested in the game that I'm incentivized on the very merits of it to do so.
That being said, I didn't 100% it in this playthrough.
No, me neither.
Operating off a deadline.
Yeah,
we listen. We got to that final room in the little cauldron that shoots you up into the final boss, and there was a room of 860, 900. I was like, fuck off! How about that? But again, because of deadline, there's a part of me that does go. I might go do that. I won't, but there's a part of me that goes, I wouldn't mind doing that.
The itch is there. I had to ignore it.
Yeah.
For the sake of the review.
The itch is not there for me. And, this is really, it's still better than Resident Evil 4, partly because there's also a lot more to look forward to, whether it's the, levels that are to come, the charm the game has to provide, and the new moves you find out, which it's something to tease you along. Whereas just the weapons, which would be the equivalent of Resident Evil 4, don't really do that. And I kind of know what I'm getting. I'm like, I'm going to get the machine gun. I'm going to get the sniper rifle. I'm going to get the shotgun. Not bad at all. Not a criticism of Resident Evil 4.
I see.
But
I thought, not to cut you off, I thought you were making the comparison of of course you would know what comes in Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil played it before.
Yeah.
Whereas, obviously, those are the same, relatively the same weapons you get in every single Resident Evil game.
Yeah, that's it.
I understand more. I was going to say, well, of course you didn't know what was to come in Banjo-Kazooie. You've never played Banjo-Kazooie.
Resident Evil does do
similar weapons.
This is an upgraded shotgun, or this is a shotgun that kind of is in the middle of the last two.
It's nice for gameplay purposes, but it doesn't excite me. I'm not like, ooh, got a new type of shotgun.
I agree.
Whereas this one, I'm like, ooh, new move. I got to go find it.
Yeah.
What's it going to do? What's it going to allow me to do in other levels that I...
To be fair, when they start going, all right, here's some shoes. Here's different types of shoes. You can go, all right, cool, whatever.
Yeah, but less so those, more the moves themselves. Yeah. But I think that puts it over Resident Evil 4. Last thing I'll say is the thing with Portal, very difficult to rank it to other games because there's not a lot to appreciate in that game, but what is to appreciate is narrowed down precisely. Which is why I was kind of like, well, Banjo-Kazooie is just a fun experience. Designed. Yeah, it's so well designed. And Banjo-Kazooie...
realized.
What's that?
Designed and realized.
Yeah.
Yes.
The concept.
And for that reason, it really, you could probably catch me on another day, if I'm being completely honest, and have me say Banjo-Kazooie is better than Portal. But I just remember Portal being so tight, and it's a nice get-in, get-out game, which not many games were able to fulfill that space. A lot of them occupy what Banjo-Kazooie does, which is it's around 10 to 12 hours long, not 4 or 3 like Portal is. And I think that's a little bit of a breath of fresh air, along with its near-perfect game design. And so for that reason, new number 16.
I think there's only 19 test chambers.
Something like that, yeah. There's not a lot. And that's my thing with Portal is just because the game has to tutorialize you and has to show you an evolution of thought because it's a puzzle game.
Yeah.
So you can't jump into the complex stuff right away. You have to build to that. Even Portal 2 builds to the complex things that we see later on.
Before they start throwing all the goo at you.
Yeah. That's my thing is like Portal ends right as it starts really cooking.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh man, you really should have stayed on the fire a little bit longer. To me, like, Portal is a masterclass of design, undeniably. I'll say, Banjo for me, there are hurdles that it has to overcome in order to climb this list, and I think it jumps over a lot of these hurdles. Excuse me. The first one is undeniably Mario 64. I think every game, Shadow of the Colossus is doing different things, but like Banjo, I think immediately jumps into the teens very easily. Like, you know, we're not comparing this one to Uncharted and saying, you know, anything is happening there. To me, the first real hurdle that it has is Mario 64, of course, and that is a hurdle for me personally because Mario 64 is arguably the most important video game of all time. It needs to. Like, without it, games never leave the 2D era. And there are so many other 3D games that came out in this era that were so bad that, like, the successes Mario 64 have are huge wins just because of how difficult it was to get all of that to work, right? And I accept that and I see that, but I don't think all of Mario 64 is good. I think its first couple of levels are good. I think it's iconic in its opening, but like very quickly, like once you start hitting that second, third level of Peach's Castle, you know, I don't know. I don't really remember, you know, big, small island. All right, cool. You know,
Tiny huge
island. Ooh, exactly. Like proving my point, right? Like, and there are so many levels like that. You know, you didn't need 2 or 3 snow levels in Mario 64.
Dude,
could we have gotten a little bit more creative with that?
Just keep the first one.
Literally, that's all. I think I actually liked the second one.
Let me keep the penguin slide. Let me keep it.
I did like the penguin slide. Anyways, and though Banjo clearly takes direct inspiration from Mario 64, you don't get Banjo-Kazooie without Mario 64.
Tell me you don't like Cool Mountain.
Not particularly, no.
I liked the one with the big snowman on it.
I like that one too, but you know it's not as good.
Yeah.
In my eyes, I prefer Cool Mountain.
Again, but Banjo does both of them, right? And smashes them together, and it's a better level, you know?
Peak. That's why it's called Freeze's Peak, because it's at the peak.
It's at the peak. Anyways, but I just think, thank you, Mario 64, for your service. But this game, I think, is clearly better than you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and it's kind of insane to me that the conversation in the gaming sphere does not give Banjo-Kazooie more flowers than it does. It has it, for sure. But, like, it's not held to the same status. And maybe it shouldn't be, but, like, damn, this game is still fun to play. And it's still really good. And I don't have to fight the game to meet it halfway. You have to fight Mario to meet it halfway.
You're making me smile because, like, when we did Doom last month, I was like, man, move over, Halo. I'm Doom pilled now. And now Tavin's Banjo pilled.
Yo, big Banjo guy over here, man.
He's Banjo pilled, dude.
So, to me, Banjo jumps over Mario. The next one is Resident Evil 4. I think Resident Evil 4 is great. It did just as much what Mario did for 3D games, Resident Evil did for third-person shooters. And cool. I like that. Honestly, I'll probably go back to Resident Evil 4 before I go back to Banjo-Kazooie.
Shooting the eggs turns Banjo-Kazooie into a third-person shooter.
There you go. No, it doesn't.
A bad one.
But
Not a good one.
Focus here, gentlemen. But Banjo, I think Banjo, pound for pound, moment to moment, is just a better game than Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 has a lot of great spots, but they're all early on, and then it falls off a cliff, in my opinion. I like the castle, but it's not as good as the village. But that island at the end, the last third of the game, I think is objectively terrible. Like, I think it's really, really bad. And even though Resident Evil 4's shooting is still fun in those segments, from a design perspective, it's awful. And I really don't think Banjo falls off a cliff ever. I don't like Rusty Bucket Bay. I think it's a bad level. But it's the only bad level in the game, in my opinion. You guys don't like Click Clock Wood. and I get that it's not the best level by far. It's definitely that sort of mid-range for me.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's bad by any means. It just overstays its welcome, which is a problem. Yeah, the final boss, not great, but like again, I'm not gonna ding a game for its last 20 minutes being frustrating.
Right.
When it gave me over 10 hours of really great enjoyment, and there's still a part of me that wants to keep going. I don't feel that with Resident Evil 4. When I roll credits, I'm done. I don't play the extra modes. I don't do any of the challenges. I don't even really do a new game plus in Resident Evil 4. I just start over, you know? So to me, Banjo jumps over that. I'm sorry, Pokemon's really good. But like it's just so basic and simple that like I'm sorry, like we're not doing. Oh, Portal.
I was gonna say you skipped right over Portal.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
Portal is exactly what I said. Too long. It stops. It ends right as it starts to start cooking. And so it's just not. It doesn't have the impact that this game had. Like it just doesn't. Time is a factor in games. I'm not one who needs every game to be 20, 30, 40 hours long. Yeah. But once you start getting sub 10. You really got to be something. And I think Portal really is something, but the inherent nature of it being a puzzle game, it needs those extra hours to really show me what you've got, and Portal 1 doesn't have that. Portal 2 does, right? And so honestly, this conversation to me, Banjo doesn't touch Resident Evil for me, personally. I think Resident Evil is a masterclass of design, great one-time playthrough, great multiple-time playthroughs, different challenge modes that I want to engage in. I'm fighting the urge every week to not revisit Resident Evil 1. Like, I think that game is genuinely great. To me, it's Severed. I really like Severed, but I don't think the highs are as high, but I think Severed's more consistent, and I think Severed has more to say because it's a little bit more of an art piece, right? So it's a little tricky for me. I think what it comes down to is that Severed is like a game forgotten to time. We would not have played it had I not thrown it in there because
for the wheel.
I had played it, right? But like right now, Severed lives as a game that is on mobile devices. That's it. It's a good game. You should play it, but that's it. So for me, Banjo would be the new number 13, overtaking Severed right below Resident Evil 1.
All reasonable points. You were never getting it past Pokemon Soul Silver for certain.
No.
Really?
Phil would fight you on that.
Even you?
Yeah. You could make more of a case for me, but I still would ultimately say, you know what? Even if it doesn't have as many like interesting systems as Banjo-Kazooie,
Yeah.
the fact that it is a simple game and it's a strong, simple game just makes it, I think a little bit better.
Yeah, see, Pokemon to me is the direct middle of the pack of this whole list, where like good from stern to stern, doesn't do anything offensive, but doesn't do anything phenomenal for me.
Which is why it makes sense that you can make a case for it being above that. I totally see that. It's just my own personal taste, and the fact it's a good, solid Pokemon game.
Oh, yeah.
I think establishes it at the position it is right now, which is above Banjo-Kazooie. Even if it was able to get past Portal, or no.
I'm honestly shocked that y'all are stopping at Portal.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. Part of me wants to put it above it because it has so much more to do within it.
Tavin, I will say you make a compelling argument. I'll say that you convinced me to move it above Portal, but yeah, like Connor said, you're not getting past Pokemon Soul Silver for me.
Pokemon. So that's it. We're casting above Portal.
I think I'd say you convinced me. I'd say this is the new number 15.
I got no qualms with that.
Rock on. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Banjo-Kazooie, the new number 15, above
Number
Portal,
15.
but below Pokemon Soul Silver. I'm happy with that.
Banjo-Kazooie.
This was the realm that I figured it would be in. You guys are crazy thinking I would put it this at 8 or 9.
I didn't think so.
I heard that. Where did you think?
I thought you were going to put it like right below Resident Evil.
Resident Evil 1?
Yeah.
That was where I was going.
where you
So
wanted
you nailed
it,
it.
yeah.
No, you didn't say Severed. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing about Severed. I got to defend that because it's such a game lost to time, as you put it.
He definitely talked about Severed.
It went on a spiel for like 2 minutes.
No, you did. You put it above Severed.
Yeah.
So I'm like defending that Severed is such an interesting piece, and the gameplay systems that the game has to provide, being on a phone, which I played it on, as opposed to you guys playing on the Switch, makes it even more impressive that it was able to have so much depth and fun with it, just being a phone game. And I think that's the credit it deserves would put it above Banjo Kazooie if we're like comparing those directly.
I like that.
I'm not mad at that.
Also, the style's good.
But I think it is very good.
Yeah.
It is very good. But I think Banjo's style for the time period that it's in is just as impressive.
Very recognizable style from Severed 2. You know the fucking guess the dot game thing. There was one that I did, and it was like the first thing, and I was like, yeah, this is Severed, and I fucking got it first try on the first pick.
Guess the dot game.
Yeah,
the site.
The website where it's like, hey, you have all these photos of whatever game it is.
I thought you were saying guess the dot game, like dot game. Like there wasn't a dot. It was the name of the game is dot game.
The website is guess the dot
guess
game.
the game. Guess the game. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not mad at any of that. I just think, I mean, Banjo's just more important to the story of video games, and on top of that, like I genuinely think I had more fun with Banjo overall. But it's that peak and valley argument versus consistency argument, and I think these games are pretty much in the same realm. But I'm going to remember my time with Banjo more.
Fair.
I get that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for. Oh no, wait.
We got,
what are we playing through the month of September? Well, ladies and gentlemen, usually when we do this, we have a giant spinner wheel pick for us, but we alternate months now. Some with us, the hosts, we take turns choosing. So 1 month will be the spinner wheel, 1 month will be one of us, and then we take those turns. So January's Connor, February is the wheel, March is Phil, so on and so forth in that cycle. And it just so happens that September is Phil's month.
Is my month.
And Phil, you've let us know nothing.
No, I've not told you anything.
You didn't even personally decide until right before we started rolling.
Yeah, it was right before. So I will say I was kind of batting around, like, I'd say from like a week ago. I was batting around probably 4 games.
Yeah.
So kind of mulling around. Go ahead.
Before that, I made a prediction it was Mass Effect.
You did.
Phil, Tavin? Any kind of
I think it's Ratchet. I think it's Ratchet and Clank. So, but you know what? Let's get crazy here, Connor. Mm-hmm. There's a non-zero chance that it is Metal Gear Solid 2. You know? Is it likely? Absolutely not. It's definitely not. But there's a non-zero chance.
Non-zero as in like 1? Like
maybe like 12.
Insert the clip from Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance.
Listen, there's 6 other games that are definitely getting picked.
But anyway, so I was mulling around like 4 or 5 games, right?
Yeah.
And there was the whole thing where we had the Sonic trailer, and I was really itching for a Sonic game, right? But I was like, well, here's the thing. Do I really want to break out Sonic Adventure right now? And the answer to that was no.
Thank God.
So we eliminated that. So then I was down to really like 3 games. And I'll just say before we started, Connor nailed it on the head. It was between Kingdom Hearts, Ratchet and Clank, and Mass Effect.
Oh, just between those 3.
Between those 3.
Yeah,
not Mass Effect.
So
Mass Effect wasn't on my radar, but I'm not
because I had recently tweeted, because like there was that whole trend where it's like, hey, what's 4 games that you really can't wait to replay?
Not a trend, just something I did.
Trend?
No, it was just me, buddy.
It was a quote. You literally quote tweeted something else.
I didn't. I just did it.
You're not.
I promise you.
I swear I clicked your name and it was something else.
I promise you, it's just me.
Either way, so I had put Kingdom Hearts 2, Mass Effect. No, I'm saying for the tweet.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. All right.
It was definitely a let me see if I can get a trend going.
Right.
Type thing. But
anyway,
I don't have the clout for that.
So that was the thing, right? And so it was really down. I just pulled up a wheel, the same wheel that we use for Game Club, whenever it's a wheel month. And I put down Kingdom Hearts, Mass Effect, and Ratchet and Clank. Let me tell you, Tavin nailed it. It's Ratchet and Clank.
Fuck yes!
Playing Ratchet and Clank.
Yes! Yeah, Connor, you'll like this game.
I imagine.
Undeniably, you'll like this game. Maybe now that I think about it, the first game's not as good as Gamecast, but you'll enjoy this game. Like it's got an edge to it. You're shooting guns and shit, and yeah, it's just a blast. I'm excited.
And where do we play that on?
We'll probably be playing it on PS3.
I'm probably gonna stream it from.
Rock on. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Ratchet and Clank is the next game up. I'm so excited for this. And so make sure you...
Just overdue, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's do October 7th is the recording date. If you watch us live, twitch.tv/2PennyGames. Yeah. Got time. But hey, there's a lot of
late Monday.
There's a lot of games coming, you know? There's a lot of games coming. So, you know, it is what it is.
I will say it did influence...
Kimbot?
Huh?
What do you say?
No, Kimbot didn't influence. That's like I don't know. We'll talk about a Kimbot on Piggy Bank. But anyway, I will say like the amount of things we have to play did kind of like influence. I was like,
so many.
Should I keep Kingdom Hearts and Mass Effect on this wheel? And I was like, it'd be really fun to play them again, you know. So I overall I was like, yeah, let's keep it on the wheel. Let's just let fate aside. Then Ratchet and Clank had mercy on us in terms of time.
But honestly, like with Mass Effect, I think that's a game we could all three of us get through pretty easy.
It's a thing of like all three of us have played it fairly extensively to different levels, of course, but like fairly extensively.
Well,
so
only
like,
two of us have the platinum. So
me, baby,
not bad. Only one of us has 2 platinums.
There's always a one-up factor.
EA, put it on PS5 so I can get a third. Anyways, but like. That review is going to be boring. We've already talked about Mass Effect on the channel before.
Ad nauseum.
Like, yeah, like, you know, we've talked about it a lot. Like, and so, like, that review is boring. And then also, I think there's even a case to be made that we should just play the original version, not the Legendary Edition, just because the Legendary Edition makes so many changes to, like, make it a better game and so forth.
But it still ultimately plays the same way.
For the most part, but, like, I would very much like to, like, kind of purify the list as much as possible. Like, this is this specific game.
I don't think I have...
I'm not going to fight that hard for it.
I don't have the original PS3 copy.
No, you don't.
I have Mass Effect 3.
Do you really?
PS3, yeah.
Random. Okay. Just because you had the disc.
Well, it was Ash's brother, you know.
Oh, yeah. Anyways.
Got
Ladies and gentlemen, October 7th, Ratchet and Clank, the original. Not the easiest thing to get a hold of. Hopefully you either subscribe to a PlayStation Plus streaming service or... have it on PlayStation 3. That
or
is
2.
the... Or 2. You know, those are the best ways to...
I still have
to
my
get it.
copy
Or,
on PS2.
You know what? PlayStation Vita. It's an option. I have the Vita for the Platinum. I think I have the Vita for the 3 version. Too.
I would break out the PS2
or the Plat
for the classic experience, but, you know, I don't feel like plugging all that shit.
It's a whole lot of things. Anyways, until next time, have a great time. And gentlemen, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye.